Welcome to the We Rise podcast, where we are building collective resilience. I'm your host, Christine Gyovai, business owner, wife, mother of two, paddleboarder, and I love working with communities across the nation. Join me as I share stories and strategies to inspire action to build resilience and community transformation. From the Navajo Nation to the mountains of Appalachia, incredible work is being done by community members and leaders. I'm excited to share more on the podcast today. Welcome. Several years ago, I met Diné activist Nicole Horseherder, who is working for equity and justice for the Navajo tribe in Black Mesa, Arizona. Nicole is the director of Tonojono Ani, which means Sacred Water Speaks, a nonprofit organization Nicole and her husband Marshall Johnson founded to stop the use of the aquifer in the coal mine on Black Mesa. You can hear more about the remarkable conversation that I had with Nicole several months ago in episode 19 of the We Rise podcast. Recently, Nicole introduced me to Percy Deal. Percy Deal is a member of the Diné, or Navajo Nation, and is a rancher and community advocate from Black Mesa. He has been deeply involved in the local community and government issues for the last 45 years. Percy continues to use his expertise in educating and advocating for community transition on Black Mesa. Percy, Nicole, and many others have been organizing for several years around the Navajo Generating Station, which was the largest coal-fired power plant in the western United States, and it supplied electricity to millions of customers in Arizona, Nevada, and California. Percy and Nicole and many others live in Black Mesa, where coal was mined to power the Navajo Generating Station. The station was demolished in December of 2020 after a 3-year decommissioning process due to the changing economics in the energy industry. Percy, in this episode, talks about what the history of the creation of the power plant was, what it was like when the original decision makers were approached, and many inequities that were faced in the beginning of that decision-making process and continuing on through today. The Navajo Generating Station has been of significant economic importance to tribes, but a high price has been paid in impact in the surrounding land and water from mining. With the recent closure of the generating station, many Diné activists have been working to ensure a just transition for workers and the surrounding communities through garnering direct support for the industry and utilities. Now, what do we mean by a just transition? It means that the transition from what the economy has based on to what it will be is fair and it's equitable, and it continues to provide life-sustaining jobs, health, and equity for community members as well as the environment. Now, the model of communities being held financially accountable to communities has not been used extensively in the United States, but it is being increasingly used in communities where plants or mines are closing. For example, Germany has committed to pay labor wages for workers coming out of the mining industry as communities transition. On Black Mesa in Arizona, aquifer levels dropped significantly as water was used for processing coal in an area that receives scant annual rainfall. Tens of billions of gallons of potable water were used to extract, clean, and transport coal mined in the region, and the aquifer has been drying up. Now, it's very common for potable water to be used to clean, extract, and transport coal, but coal is not often mined in places which receive such little rainfall to recharge or fill the aquifer groundwater back up. Now that the Navajo Generating Station has closed, Percy, Nicole, and many others are working on energy policy, renewable energy, and creating a just transition for displaced workers and the community. In 2019, the Navajo Generating Station paid $40 million to the Navajo Nation, as well as millions to the Hopi, accounting for approximately 80% of the tribe's budget in 2016. The utility company, Arizona Public Service, has pledged $144 million for transition assistance, economic development, and electrification for the Navajo Nation, Hopi tribe, and communities near the Cholla power plant in Joseph City. If approved by the Arizona Corporation Commission, the State Public Utilities Commission, it will be the largest amount pledged for an equitable transition by a utility company in the United States. A recent article about Nicole Horseherder said, "A new energy economy must be structured differently than the relationships of the past. That's the whole point," Nicole said in a recent article, which you can find the link to on the episode webpage on our website, yeswerise.org. Nicole said, "We want to make sure that there are clear guidelines as to how to operate projects in the reservation, especially for outside entities, but also for inside Navajo developers. In this episode, you'll hear from Percy about the very real challenges many Diné community members face, why creating an equitable transition in Black Mesa is a core issue not only for community members, but for all of us to see, engage in, and pay attention to. Lean in as Percy shares words of wisdom and also helps give a glimpse to the future about what many additional communities are going to be facing. Thanks for tuning in. Percy, thank you so much for joining the We Rise podcast. I'm so glad to have you on today. Will you introduce yourself so folks know who I have the delight of speaking to today?
My name is Percy Deal. I'm retired. I live in a community on the Navajo reservation referred to as Big Mountain. Big Mountain is located just right below where Peabody Coal Mine used to be. I'm a member of the Navajo tribe, and my parents, they're both deceased, and their parents going back at least 7 or 8 generations, we've always lived in this area.
And can you tell us more about what the area looks like for people so they can envision it in their mind and in their heart?
It's in the high country. We have some trees, some medium-sized mountains, and we've got valleys, washes, and there's quite a few people that lives in the area. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're living in a state of drought, and we've been experiencing drought for the last 10 years or so, and this year is no different.
And how has the drought been affecting you? Can you tell us a little bit more about what the cycle is?
In every way.
Yeah, tell us more.
I mean, when I say in every way, it's affecting particularly water. Mm-hmm. And when you have little or no water, life comes to an end everywhere. And that's what we are experiencing right now. The drought, the climate change, we are experiencing and seeing the climate and the weather like we've never seen before. And it's affecting every creature, plants, and animals, and people.
Can you say more about the ways it's affecting you now and what you've seen over time, how the community has changed over time?
Well, everybody's hauling their own water right now in the 55-gallon drum, or sometimes those families that do have containers that might be larger, maybe 200-gallon, maybe 300-gallon. People are hauling their own water, and the watering facility isn't nearby. Like in my case, it's about 20 miles away, one way. And the price of gas, things are really difficult.
Absolutely. So 20 miles just to fill up water. There's drought, and it's affecting every living thing, people, plants, animals. Can you tell us more, Percy, about the community, what the community's been like over time, in your time, and your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents' time? Tell us more about your community.
Well, when I was a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, at this time of the year, the vegetation would be green everywhere, and there would be water available from the springs and the natural springs and so forth. There would be plenty of water. But over the years, since Peabody, we've been given a lease on the Navajo and Hopi Reservation, together with permission to mine coal, they're given permission to mine in aquifer also to support their operation. And the in aquifer that we have is the only source that we have. And over the years, things have changed since Peabody has taken so much of the in aquifer. And also it brought upon us climate change. We're getting less rain, less snow. All of the springs have disappeared. And if they're going to come back, it's going to take years, maybe 20, 30 years before we see those springs again.
Yeah. That's a massive amount of time and change for not only seeing rain change and snow change, but the springs themselves change. And now people are traveling 20 miles, in your case, to get water. Is Peabody still actively mining coal in the region?
No. They had a 50-year lease since 1969. Mm-hmm. And their lease has expired in 2019. Mm-hmm. So right now, they're in the progress of moving out, but there's something that they're supposed to be doing that they're not doing, which is reclamation and doing something about the in aquifer. Mm-hmm. Maybe putting in a recharge to where in aquifer could be restored. And that's not happening. Mm.
What does the recharge look like? How does that work, or how should it work?
I have no idea what it looks like. I've never seen it. But all I know, all I envision is in order to Peabody to put in a recharge, they would have to use big machinery to make an earthen dam to where when it rains, that earthen dam would collect the water from the rain and then it would soak back into the earth. Wow. That's what I see. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen a recharge system, but that's just what I imagine.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And they would have to put in more than one recharge system because the lease area is 64,000 acres. Wow. And that's a big area. Yeah. The in aquifer that they use over 1 billion acre feet. Wow. In aquifer.
It's hard to imagine how much that is. That's so, so big.
And there's no way that we can tell how much of the in aquifer is left. Wow. And how much of what is left is safe. You know, that in aquifer belongs to us. Mm-hmm. And the people at that time in 1969, which included my parents, they were not told that in addition to mining coal, they would use so much water. They were not told that. Mm-hmm. And in the process of them using water, they were not told that there was going to be a huge change. The vegetation changed, the spring would disappear, there would be climate change to where there would be less moisture, there would be drought. Mm-hmm. At that time, in those times, there was no drought. But now we've been living with drought the last, I would say maybe 10, 15 years, 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And Percy, how are people adapting to this massive change? So your parents did not know, your parents' generation didn't know that the water was going to be drawn down so significantly. And now the landscape, plants and animals have shifted so much. Now that the mining operations have stopped, what is your hope for the future and how are people working to create that change?
During the time that Peabody was here, even though they paid the Navajo Nation like $35, $40 million a year revenue, we didn't see the result of the revenue out here. Mm-hmm. After they left, nothing really has changed. I mean, it's really difficult to, get something started when you don't have the resource.
Yeah.
The only thing that we can do is use what little we have per family, not the entire community, but per family. Like for me, I have maybe 4 55-gallon drums, 4 55-gallon barrels. Mm-hmm. I keep 2 of them empty. The other 2 are sitting on my porch. Like right now, I'm very low in those 2 barrels that currently have the water. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be loading up the 2 empty ones, take it down to the watering facility, bring back 110 gallons, and then siphon that water into the one that are sitting on the porch, the empty one. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. The one that is getting empty. Mm-hmm. That's how I take care of mine.
Wow.
And I know that the other family are very similar. We don't have any water. I mean, there is water in the facility, but they're miles and miles and miles away.
Wow.
And you have to have a pickup truck to do that. Some families don't have, their vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a vehicle, so they have to rely on their neighbor or somebody else. And that person that do have a vehicle, they have to pay for fuel. Right now, the fuel cost is over $5 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have to pay that person that's going to haul water for them.
So not only is there less water, but the means of getting water is more difficult, and it's getting more expensive to be able to even just get water on a daily basis with the price of fuel. Are community members, is it common for people to work together to help each other out? Or is it really more each family is looking out for themselves? I mean,
that's pretty much what it is. Each family is trying to work their way through the issue right now.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't afford to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, then you're losing your time.
Absolutely. And it's one of the most precious things that we have is time. So Percy, when you think about the future of your community, what do you hope will happen? What do you hope you'll see?
Well, all we can do is hope and dream and pray that things will get better. But the last 55, 60 years, things have not gotten better. It's only gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this major giant industry that appeared in our community without the people's approval at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the government did that.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government and also the Interior Department and the Navajo Nation government in 1969. This is what I'm hearing. They appeared before the Navajo Nation Council. At that time, the number of council delegates sitting on the council was like 69, 69 delegates. Remember, this is in 1969. The number of delegates, 69, I'm assuming almost all of them had very little education.
Mm-hmm.
Very little. Those that did have education had very little education, maybe like up to 3rd, 4th, 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And the lease that was presented to them was probably like maybe 200 pages, inch and a half thick contract that was presented to them. And the interpretation was probably extremely poor.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that they understood was that they were going to get revenue for it, and there was going to be job provided. And because at that time, the Navajo Nation had very little revenue coming in, the Navajo tribe did not have the authority to tax. So it sounded great that finally they were going to get tens of millions of dollars a year and some job. And they approved it for a period of 50 years. In their mind, they never saw how long 50 years was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm asking you right now, how long is 50 years from now? What is it going to look like?
Right.
There's no way you can imagine that.
Right. 2072, what that would be like is so hard to imagine.
And I mean, we don't know whether the Earth is still going to be around by then.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know whether the water is going to be available then.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I'm making is that they were told for 50 years they're going to be getting revenue. And I don't know how much they were told about water. It seems like very, very little.
Mm-hmm.
Because water is a precious item to us. It's part of our religion. We talk to the water. whether it's standing water, flowing water, or a lake. We pray to the water. To us, water is a living matter. So if they were only told enough about the water, I bet you, they could have objected to it. They could have expressed their concern. After everything was signed and dried on paper, signatures were all dried, then an interpreter out of Window Rock, which is the Navajo Nation capital, and 2 or 3 white people came out. That's what my mother said.
Mm.
They met not too far from here under a tree, and they were told that there's going to be an industry that's going to come in with machines, and they were going to mine coal. And they were also told that they were going to get revenue, get some money from it in return, and job. And that's all they were told. Mm. And I assume they were also told 50 years, but nobody could ever imagine how long 50 years would be. They were never told about the water. They were never told that there was going to be an impact on the natural springs. They were never told about it's going to have an impact on the vegetation. It's going to have an impact on their plant, their garden. It's going to have an impact on their health. It's going to have an impact on the weather. And there's going to be a huge change in the climate, that there will be less rain and so forth. Mm-hmm. They were never told that. All they were told was that they're going to get some money. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a job for them. Very few people got the job here. And if you come out here to this area, there's no evidence of where the revenue was used in this area, in the Black Mesa area. Mm. There are many homes that are 60 years of age and older, and it has no plumbing. I don't have plumbing at home, right here where I'm sitting right now. Mm. I don't have bathroom. I don't have running water. It was just the last few years that we finally got some electricity in the area. Mm. Our roads are not good. The economic isn't here at all. We have to travel. If I need to get to the bank, like that's what I'm planning on doing tomorrow to pay some bills, mm-hmm. I have to go 70 to 75 miles to get to the nearest bank. Wow. The same way with the grocery stores and the gas station. You have to go great distance to get to those places to get your essential needs. Mm-hmm. So how do we survive? We're doing our best. Like I said, people just can't afford to volunteer.
That makes sense.
We try to help one another, but it's really difficult. We don't have the resources to do so. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of things on volunteer basis for the community. Mm. Like one of the things that I did the last couple of years is when the federal government made available to address the COVID issue, they awarded the Navajo Nation, millions of dollars to fight the disease. And we're told by the scientists and the health expert that the best way to fight the disease is to have water, clean water. Mm. Wash your hand and so forth. Mm. We can't afford that. We can't do that even if we wanted to. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I put a proposal together to try to get water to 60 homes. And it's not approved yet. Mm. And it's been almost 2 years. Wow. And during that period, more people have been affected. We have more people dying during that time. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be before we even see the water. Or first of all, we need the bathroom addition to receive the water. Mm-hmm. then the water line will get to only those that do have bathrooms. So it's difficult. Most of the people never saw that. The water, that is our water that the Peabody has been awarded to use to support their operation the last 50 years. And I don't know how much the Navajo Nation got for that water, but I'm assuming they got very little. Water is extremely precious to us. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's part of our religion. It's part of our prayer. We talk to the water.
Building collective resilience looks different in different places. Resilience means growing a stronger, brighter future for generations to come. It also takes many shapes and comes in different sizes. Resilience includes building community, a healthier environment, and robust local economies. It also means growing equity, inclusion, and belonging, care of self and others, and creating regeneration at all levels. What stories and strategies inspire you? Share your ideas with us on social media and check out our website at yeswerise.org to find the show notes, interview videos, and the links mentioned on the podcast today. Percy, it sounds like not only has the water been taken, but it's just getting more and more difficult, even with COVID, not even having a place for the water to go in people's homes often. So needing to build the bathroom to be able to get the water line. And it's been 2 years and you still haven't heard about the proposal you wrote for 60 homes. And you said something earlier, Percy, about having hope and prayer. That's all you can have. What are your hopes, Percy, for the future of Black Mesa, for the future of your community and neighbors?
Well, we like to see water. That's the one thing that we need, probably more than anything else. Mm-hmm. You can't do anything without water. Mm-hmm. Even to cook a small meal, you got to have water. Anything that's small to as big as constructing a road and everything in between, you need water. To have a decent home, you got to have water for construction. To create jobs out here, you got to have water. Water is an answer to everything, mm-hmm. Even to this disease that we are experiencing right now. Water is an answer to the climate change, to the drought.
So we have Peabody Coal who's not doing what they said they would do in terms of creating the recharge. Are there things that can be done to bring water back? Is it a matter of bringing more water to homes? What are ways that water can come back in your mind and heart?
I don't think Peabody is going to bring back the water to us. Mm-hmm. We don't have the lease. And if they do, if they agree to bring back the water, they're going to be asking for hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, their interest is money. Their interest isn't in the economy, the health of the people, and the economy of the people. They don't care. Mm-hmm. They don't care about the Mother Earth and so forth. They got their money. They're packing up. They're moving out. Reclamation. We want them to reclaim the area that they have mined. Right now, if you were to come out here and look at where they did the mining, you'll see where the earth's been dug up and there's this pile of dirt. The federal government isn't doing much to help us.
So the reclamation needs to happen.
It needs to happen. Otherwise, we're stuck with the disturbed land, disturbed surface.
So the reclamation needs to happen. As we get ready to close today, Percy, what else would you say? What else are your hopes, or what else would you like for people to know?
Well, right now, there's catastrophe going on everywhere, mm-hmm. From the West Coast to the East Coast, from the South to the North. Every piece of area, there's something going on every single day. Mm-hmm. There's drought, there's heat, there is flooding, there's tornadoes, there's earthquake, there's wildfire. I mean, people should understand that these industry, major big industry, are no help to us. They may provide jobs, but it only benefits those people that are on the payroll, not the entire community. Yes, they may get revenue from it, but even the revenue that they're getting isn't enough to address the change that we are all living in right now. There's got to be a better way for us to take care of Mother Earth, take care of the water. Water is the most precious thing in everybody's life, everybody. And all living matters, all living creatures. Water is so important. And it's got to be clean water, not polluted water, which is what the industry is causing.
Sounds like there needs to be awareness about the scale of things that are happening across the country, across the globe, and recognition of the awareness of how important water is for every person, for every plant, for every animal, the earth, for clean water. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because of all these things, which is adding to the war that's going on overseas, the cost of everything is going up. And there isn't a single person in this country that is not affected. And the climate change plays a major part to this whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, we all have to understand this. And we have to change our ways in a big way. It's not just here on the Navajo that needs to be changed. It's everywhere. It's like you have a big pail of oil, dirty oil. And the Navajo Nation is somewhere in there. You drop a clean water, just a drop, into that pail of dirty oil and hoping that it'll stay clean. It's not going to work. It's going to have to be the entire area. I mean, we're all struggling more than ever right now. And those of us that been struggling, we have to struggle even more.
And it's hard, as you said, Percy, when people are struggling to be able to do anything, to volunteer, to do things. What can people do, Percy? How can people learn more? What can people do to become involved?
But the other thing that we can do is continue to raise this issue to our leaders. But even our leaders, they don't have the resources to do something different. I mean, the federal government gave them billions of dollars, and they're still wrestling with it. I mean, I'm just a person out here, a very small grain in the sand, and that's what we are out here. No matter how hard I yell, it's not going to go far. I mean, the federal government isn't going to say, hey, there's somebody yelling out there. Let's go over there and find out, what the issue is. That's not going to happen. No matter how hard I yell, Peabody isn't going to turn around and say, wait a minute, somebody's yelling. Let's go back over there. They're not going to do it. They're just going to continue to walk away.
What a strong visual. Yeah. I'm wondering for listeners, what can people do in other places? I hear you that you're this small grain of sand yelling and Peabody might not turn around. What are some things that people can do?
Well, I think what you're doing, that's in your hand. And I don't know what impact that's going to have. I'm just hoping that somebody would write maybe a letter to the Navajo Nation and Navajo Nation government and say, hey, there's an issue out there. Maybe a letter to Department of Interior under the federal government. Maybe a letter to the Arizona Congressional Delegation, the New Mexico Congressional Delegation, that there is an issue in the area where they were elected. That they need to pay attention. They need to visit these areas. They need to see for themselves what is happening. They can't be just stuck in their office and pretend that they know what's going on or what the issues are. The only way that you can really see is to actually get out there out into our midst and see the area. I mean, when I say get out there, I'm not talking about getting into a comfortable conference room and have people talk to you. I'm talking about actually walking the ground, visiting a home or two or three. Talk to the family. See what the condition is of their family. See how they get their water. Maybe get in their vehicle and go on a ride with them. Maybe get out to where your cornfield used to be.
Mm.
Look at the cornfield. Look at their animals. Look at their windmill. That's the way for them to really educate themselves, rather than sitting in a comfortable office somewhere and saying that learn about them.
So being there in person, being with the experience, learning more, and then doing something. So we'll definitely include links for people to learn more. Percy, I really appreciate what you've shared about the congressional delegations needing to get out of the comfortable conference room and showing up and listening and learning. Is there anything else you'd like to share as we get ready to close today?
Well, everybody has a faith. They believe in certain religion. I would just urge them to do what they can. Pray for understanding and pray for moisture. And I mean, some places, I guess there's too much moisture, but in our area, it's a drought. There needs to be restoration everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're no exception out here. We're right in the thick of things. And we need to elect leaders that do care.
Mm-hmm.
Not about the industry, because the industry is the one that's destroying everything. But a leader that do care about how the people are living right now in the future. You know, the Navajo people, we talk about the future, about our children and their children and the unborn, maybe 100 years, 200 years from now. And I'm worried about they're not going to have the resource. They may not have any water by then. That's what we need to focus in on.
Absolutely. So the prayers for moisture, the being able to know that there is a future for the unborn and those to come, and being able to do restoration everywhere. Love that. Percy, I want to thank you for joining the podcast today. I want to thank you for your realness and for letting people know the everyday struggle that you and others in Black Mesa are facing, and just offer my gratitude and thank you for joining me. Hello, solution seekers and change makers. We are glad and grateful for the work you are doing in the world. To learn more about the stories and speakers featured in this episode, check out our website at yeswerise.org. You'll find the show notes, interview videos, and the links mentioned today, and you can join our email list. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. It so helps others find the podcast too. You can also check us out on Facebook or Instagram at Yes We Rise to share your ideas. Enjoy!